Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on a Wednesday afternoon. Christina is joining me for the first time. This is your first time on Seller Sessions, isn't it? You've done Branded by
Yeah.
Women, but yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show. You're on your debut.
Yep.
Do you want to give the audience a bit of background on yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Christina. I'm partner and business development manager at Sermondo, which is the largest global platform for finding Amazon service providers. That's me in a nutshell.
Cool. And obviously for fine, do you want to give a bit of background on how the service works? Because this ties into our show today with regards to, picking the right service provider. So let's just kind of start there where does someone start, whether it's using your service or independently?
Okay, so if you're using Sermondo, you have basically two options for finding service providers. I mean, I will talk about where you can also find service providers on later, but I will start with Sermondo. So basically what we do is we provide Amazon specialized service providers from all over the world with their own landing pages where they can showcase their services to you, so you can see at a glance what they have experience within, where they are located, which languages they're speaking, and so on and so forth. So you can go to Sermondo, choose a specific category. Let's say you're looking for an Amazon PPC specialist or a 3PL in the US. And then you can filter by category and just browse through the listings and contact the service providers you find there. Or we also provide a matching service, meaning that you just simply fill out a form, say, "Hi guys, I'm looking for a 3PL in the west of the US, and here are my requirements. This is my quantity," and then we will receive that inquiry and choose the perfect service provider for the job for you.
Cool. That's good. Right. So let's speak about the elephant in the room, because quite often we do know, like, maybe one of the reasons you set up a service provider opportunity as well is you'll find a gap within the market, and being so that we work in a fantastic community, but there is the downsides. We've seen them, like people get scammed for courses and stuff like that. And so it's very difficult, because I find that quite often sellers can be quite distrustful, and they rely heavily on asking someone in a Facebook group, or they'll speak to a friend, "Have you used this service?" and stuff like that. And you've seen it, people get aired in different groups, that person didn't come back to me, or I need a refund for this, and then it didn't happen, and then you get screen grabs, and it can get really messy, and I've seen it like unfold, and then there's like dozens and dozens of comments underneath. So the idea is, how do we kind of mitigate this? So for you, if you're not picking, but if people come to you to be part of your directory, what kind of heavy lifting are you doing in the background that actually protects sellers?
So the first thing that we do is we vet all the information that the service provider provides, which is already something that a lot of sellers don't really do when they get recommendations in Facebook groups and someone is saying, "Hey, I'm a sourcing agent from China, just trust me," and then they start working with them. So basically what we do is when someone signs up, which already costs money, which already repels a lot of scammers, but if someone signs up, we will make sure that the phone is working, that it's the right phone number, the email is working. Sometimes I jump on a video call, and we do have a review system. So every single company that's on Sermondo is already vetted in the basic way that this is a real company, this is a legit company, there are people behind this. There are people that have experience with those services, and then we have the review system where sellers can leave their review, and every single review that you will find on Sermondo is vetted. So this has two advantages. So the first is, obviously, a lot of companies try to give 5 stars to themselves, and we don't want that. So what we will do when we receive a review is we will ask the author of the review for proof of concept. So we get a screenshot from an email correspondence or from the service contract. And we also do so because we don't want, let's say, one PPC agency to rate another PPC agency badly, just so they can have their services look better in comparison.
What you mean, even on your platform, there's possibilities where people will leave a negative review for another service provider, and that's something that you have to vet for as well.
Yes.
Because I think with testimonials is always the toughest, and you see that, you see these long landing pages, and it's like Dave from Dagenham. Wow, what amazing service! It's horseshit. There's no pictures or anything, and like you can see through that from a mile off. And I think that's kind of important, because quite often when someone's doing the hard sell, let's just say, argument's sake, they are selling the course. You scroll down the page and there's always fantastic comments from all these different people about how amazing they are. And quite often that stuff is like, when I look at stuff like that, and let's say it's got, I don't know, 15, it's a long landing page and you're scrolling through and it's got 15 or 20 different testimonials, I start to smell a rat there. Yeah. Because that's quite a lot. I mean, even down to, some goes to iTunes and leaves you a review for the podcast and stuff. Obviously, you're going to ask people, do you mind leaving a review? And I think what people do as well, Trustpilot is generally a good barometer for a service. But when I start to see the lack of it being subjective, when you go to a landing page and you see all of this stuff, and it's just Dave from Dagenham and Kim from Canterbury, you just know it's horseshit, basically. And that's something I think that sellers have to discern for themselves. I think the key thing really is to get recommendations from people that are actively using the service. Or if we're out of COVID, it's a lot easier when you meet the service providers face to face at conferences and stuff.
Yeah, but I have to say, I mean, sometimes it's really hard for sellers, especially when they're expanding, which is a huge part of why we have built Sermondo. And you can't really travel around that often. I mean, if you're sourcing products from China, you're from the US, and you also sell in Germany, let's say. I mean, it's super time consuming to visit all those places yourself, which is why we have tried to establish Sermondo as a trustworthy platform. And something that we also introduced is that we do have our own podcast. It's called Sermondo Talks, where we invite the service providers listed on our website for an interview. So I don't know if I can share my screen here. It doesn't matter.
You can hit share at the bottom if you want to share your screen.
Okay, let me just talk about it. So if you go to a landing page, for example, from a full service agency, you're based in the UK, you're looking for a full service agency, let's say in the US, in New York, and you find a listing on Sermondo. I think we did 40 episodes so far. So in 40 listings, you will find a video of me interviewing the CEO or founder of the company, asking him the most relevant questions that also every seller would ask in the first interview with them, which has the aim that the sellers looking for a service provider can get a better feeling of who is behind the company, what's their workflow look like. Like, do I feel comfortable with how this person speaks and reacts to questions and so on. So this is how we try to fill the gap in case that you can't go there in person to meet them.
Yeah. And what's your take on in terms of refunds and making sure that customers are taken care of? I mean, we do it at the agent. It's like the event, the agency. For me personally, I'm a big believer that, bad news travels faster, 20 times faster than good news.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, there's not enough money in the world. Like, if you've got an unhappy customer, just give them a refund. It's the same like if you put on an event, they want a refund, hit the refund button. Sell the ticket to someone else. It's more, it helps a lot more. And I think it's that and I think most service providers have this. Their mindset is the same as when sellers are dealing with Amazon customers. Right. Yeah. So you don't want to have that negative review. So you want to give them as best customer service as possible. If someone's got the ump, you don't react, you respond, give them money back, send them a free product and stuff. And I think 99% of the service providers have that same mentality as well. But we do, I suppose, have a culture of that negative side where, oh, they're a scammer, they're this and they're that. And I believe, and maybe I'm just an old softie, but I do believe that 99% do have their heart in the right place. But there's always that 1% there, people get caught out and get scammed and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also sometimes it's just a case of miscommunication. So when we get a bad review for a service provider, this is something that I'm very proud of because we have a really personal service. I mean, you can go to Trustpilot and see how many reviews they have and how good they are. But when we get like a negative review and the customer says like, yeah, I tried to contact them because I wanted to pull my inventory, but I can't reach anyone. They're scammers, beware. Then I will contact like the owner of the 3PL saying, hey, there's this customer, he's having this issue and it seems like he can reach anyone. Please reach out so you can clear this situation, this issue. And this worked really well in the past. So I think that's a really good way of resolving those negative feelings from a seller towards a service provider, because sometimes it's really just misunderstandings.
Yeah, I mean, there's a flip side of that, and it's quite rare. Like you said about misunderstanding, I've seen people that was given a service, wasn't necessarily happy with the service, so what they did, they was offered a refund.
Yeah.
And even though they was offered the refund, they didn't take the refund because it gave them a platform just to talk shit about the people in the Facebook group. And they even admitted it. I read it. I couldn't believe my own eyes. It's like, hold on, he was offered a refund. Not any of my companies. I'm just getting an observation of some examples. And that's the flip side, because the damaging effects to a reputation of a company when people choose to be that way inclined is I don't know a better word to use other than toxic for that. And unfortunately, it's a bad word to use. But I think we've got to look at a balance. And it's like due diligence is really important about who you select and how you select. And you kind of work as a filter by pre-vetting these. But I'm sure you still had this difficulty with misunderstanding. I mean, things like, I think where you can get problems a lot is through design, because it's in the eye of the beholder, you know, like 3D images and things like that. I'm not happy with that. And the other side is, what level is the person that is been in business, right? So this might be their first rodeo, so they're not used to being in business, and like they don't always know how to do that level of engagement with the service provider. Are unhappy, and how they react, it can be based on their experience. That's not me putting it on the seller. I'm just giving you the dynamics of the range of people from very beginning to well seasoned. I mean, I'll give you another example. Like I've been with my accountants for 11 years and I've got 3 businesses there, but unfortunately the owners sold last year. The people that took it over are an absolute nightmare, and it's been problems getting year ends sorted. I've already paid them the accounting fees to do 2021. I've moved to a new accountant because the services just fell off a cliff. But it looks like across 3 businesses, I've got to pay for 2021 twice. I've already paid for it because I paid it in advance. So now I need to go in a new company. But, you know, me 10 years ago would have probably been a bit more pissed off about it. But for me, it's like, okay, now, you know, this is everyday business. This happens all the time. It's unfortunate. And, you know, it can get a bit messy to sort these things out over the long term. But it's really important, I think, for people to dial in what do they want from the service provider. And I also think it's important for a service provider to really set expectations of what they're realistically going to get.
Yeah, you know? I think, as you say, it's all about managing expectations. We release and continue to release a lot of guides on how to work with certain service providers, because a lot of people wouldn't even know how to work with a photographer, especially when it comes to creative work. Let's say you want to have infographics or you want to have your logo designed, and then you just say, I want it to be orange and fruity. Like, that's not enough to give to your graphic designer, because then he will probably deliver something that you don't like. So a lot of people think that they just can hand the work to someone else and that's it, but it's also work to work with someone, because you have to really give your input and sort of guide the service provider and what he or she has to do with what you provide them with. So it's all about managing expectations on both sides.
Yeah. So why did you set it up? Was it part of the reason you see an opportunity in the market, or it is because sellers wasn't being provided for properly and you were seeing that there's that disconnect between service providers and sellers?
Yeah, so actually, I've never been an Amazon seller myself. I'm really open about that. But I built Sermondo with my best friend, and it was actually his idea because he's been really successful.
But the problem you were solving, what was the reason you thought, right, I'm going to set up Sermondo? Was it to help with the disconnect between maybe service providers and Amazon sellers?
Yeah.
To help that, that middle
Exactly.
ground where like scamming and stuff,
Yeah. We wanted to find a way where Amazon sellers can find trustworthy and reliable services wherever all around the globe without having the fear of getting scammed. Because this is what happened to Tobias, my best friend, which is why he came up with the idea of building Sermondo.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because when I set up Seller Poll, the goal behind that was it's voted for by the community, and the idea is there's 9 categories voted for by the community.
Yeah.
But even to this day, it's like they shouldn't be there, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, look, people vote; they choose to vote. No one's, But the idea with that was to help in a way that one, that people get recognised for their work. And 2, it provides a safe haven. So if you are looking for service providers, or you want to check out a Facebook group, or you want to listen to someone's podcast, or you want to check out a YouTube channel, it gives you an opportunity to go, all right, go through that list that's filtered by the fact that voted for by people within the community. That will then help other sellers. But you're always going to get people that disagree. And that's the problem with, say, awards. You can never keep everyone happy because everyone has an opinion. It's kind of it splits opinion in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So what do you see coming up in the future? I mean, what are the trends of services that are popping up now that can be beneficial for sellers going forward? We understand, PPC agencies, graphic designers, and stuff. But what are some of the trends you're seeing at the moment?
Unfortunately, we have a lot of suspensions the last 2 or 3 months. A lot of them also last year was because shipments were late, inventory going out, orders couldn't be fulfilled. So this was a huge trend, unfortunately, which I hope, now that Corona is slowing down a little bit, will get better. And a lot of services, especially in the EU, that are required are legal services, everything related to certifications, compliance, special labels. And it's really tricky, especially US sellers sometimes underestimate how many rules we have here in the EU and what they have to comply with. But we have some pretty good companies that can help out there.
Yeah, so that's your biggest uptake is the rise in suspensions. A lot of people are coming to you to find and filter through options for reinstatement companies.
Yeah, this is definitely one of our major parts. And also a lot of full service agencies. We see a lot of, especially the bigger brands, who are just looking for a turnkey solution where they say, okay, we want to be present on the Amazon marketplace, but we don't really want to have anything to do with logistics or managing the listings or managing PPC. So they just want a full service agency to just give everything to and then just lean back. And also acquisition companies, like these are popping up like crazy.
Oh, the aggregators.
What? Sorry?
Aggregators. You mean the roll-up companies, the companies that are going around and buying Amazon businesses?
Yeah.
Cool. So before we go, what would you suggest for people, not even outside of your service, what should people look for in terms of due diligence when they decide on using a third-party service provider? What would some say top 3 to 5 things that you would suggest they do beforehand?
Number 1, have a personal conversation with them. If it can be in person, then at least have a video call so you have a face to the person behind the camera. See not only what they answer to your questions, but also how they react if they try to sort of talk around a real answer. Don't ever believe something that sounds too good. If someone like a PPC agency is promising you, oh, we will bring your ACOS down to 5% or something, this is something that no one can ever promise because there are just too many parameters and too many factors counting in. So if it sounds too good to be true, it's usually because it is too good to be true. And then, I mean, obviously I have to say, like, use Sermondo, but I also would say, like, don't just trust in us. You can trust in us, but also do your due diligence outside of that. Like read Google reviews, read Trustpilot reviews, ask in all the amazing Facebook groups if anyone has experiences with them. Do not only rely on one source of information.
Yeah.
That's
Cool. Before we go, no, it's cool. Before we go, just let you know, guys, we're looking for an account manager at Databrill. We're paying a finder's fee of $1,500. Drop me an email to danny@databrill.com. Obviously, if we take that person on, then there's $1,500 finding fee to say thank you. I'll be back here next week. Tomorrow, Sharon Evan will return. Christina, what's the best way people can get in contact with you?
So the best way is to send me an email to christina@sermondo.com, Christina with a K, or find me on LinkedIn. It's Christina Mertens, or on Facebook, same name.
Excellent. All right. Lovely to see you again, guys. Take care of yourself and your family. I'll see you next week. Much love.